So the Game Awards were on Thursday, and there were a few surprise winners. No, there weren't. Expedition 33 cleaned house. Hello, my gaming brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan, your host here at QuickBird Gaming, and I appreciate you tuning in for another episode of QuickBird News, where we wrap up all the gaming news that's fit to cover from the last week. So like I mentioned in the intro, the Game Awards aired on Thursday, December 11th, and we've got a lot to talk about from that, obviously. This episode is going to cover all the news from the 7th to the 13th of December. We have a few other stories to talk about. We have Square Enix is falling on real hard times at the moment. We've got a couple of bits on Assassin's Creed, and everybody's favorite Sandbox is getting a new expansion, which is drawing some notice. But before we get into all that, we need to talk about the Game Awards and everything that went on down there. As always, if you are looking for a particular story, they are all time-stamped in the description box down below, so feel free to scroll down and jump to a story that interests you. And now with all the preliminaries out of the way, let's talk about the Game Awards and just what an absolute wrecking ball Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was this year. Okay, we're going to start off with this article from Video Games Chronicle, which was published on Friday, the 12th of December, so the day after the Game Awards. And it's a complete list of winners as Clair Obscur wins Game of the Year and sets a new record for awards won. If I remember correctly, Clair Obscur had 13 nominations in 11 different categories. They had three nominations for Best Performance alone. The voice actors for Mael and Gustav and Verso, if you know the characters, were all nominated in the same category. And the Jennifer English, the voice actress for Mael, won that in addition to winning Game of the Year. And it says, yes, Best Indie Game, Best Debut Indie Game, Best Art Direction, Best Score, Best RPG, Best Narrative, Best Game Direction, and then Best Performance, as well as Game of the Year. So this just absolutely cleaned house. And it says it had already broken the award for the record for most Game Awards nomination with 13, but Sandfall's Hall of 9 awards mean it has also set the new record for most awards won, besting Last of Us Part 2, which won 7 awards at the 2020 show. This article has a full list of the winners. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out to see which games other than Clair Obscur managed to pick up a win. There were a few here and there, like Best Action Game, I believe, went to Silk Song, and Best Audio Direction went to Battlefield 6. So there were a few that were not won by Clair Obscur, but it was definitely for Sandfall Entertainment, the small, debut studio from France. I think they have a core of about 35 people. It was definitely their night, and they absolutely set the tone and ran away with this. So anyway, I'll list this. I'll also link this article from IGN, which was also published on Friday. Everything announced at the Game Awards, it's got a brief video of 15 minutes that kind of touches on all of the trailers and things that were announced at the Game Awards. And this can kind of give you a summary, though. Obviously, if you see something more interesting, these don't have the full trailers in it. And I'll kind of run down these and tell you what I saw. Free Shepherd looked like a comfy game. Decrepit looks like a first-person roguelite type of RPG. And they had some things for Guild Wars, Escape for Duck Off, some ads there. Pragmata got another little look, and this is a Capcom game. Solasta 2, which looks like an RPG. Tank Rat, Bradley the Badger. Bradley the Badger had kind of a Conker's Bad Fur Day vibe. Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic is one that was interesting, got a lot of feedback. Divinity, which is what turned out to be related to that statue out in the desert. That was related to Larian's next game, which they said is going to be bigger than Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of the game area and everything. So that's got a lot of attention. We got a new look at Resident Evil Requiem, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And yes, it confirmed that Leon Kennedy is going to be in the game. A lot of people were looking forward to that. Introduced debut for Control Resonant, the sequel to Remedy's game Control, which I think is about 5 years old now. A great game. I had a lot of fun with it. Not sure, just looking at this one, how much I'm going to like it as much. It looks like it's going to be a little more hack and slash than the previous one, and they also took the protagonist. Looks like it's not going to be Jesse Fadden, who was a really charismatic protagonist. Looks like it's going to be her brother. But I mean, it's too early to tell. There were two Tomb Raider games announced. Tomb Raider Catalyst, which is going to be a new entry in the IP, supposedly coming out in 2027. And this is going to take place later in the continuity. After, I think it's not even just after the reboots, but after some of the original games. And then Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, they called it a reimagining. So it's basically a remake of the original first game, or I think it's the first game. So that's going to be out there, and that's going to be up in 2026, as is Control Resonant is also supposed to be out in 2026. And we had some more information on other games. Gang of Dragon, which looks like it was spun off Yakuza, the Yakuza games, and I think it has some of the same devs working for it. Forest 3 was very interesting. The first two Forest games looked like they took place in a very grounded reality, and this one looks like you go into space. And Lord of the Fallen, we saw that they're doing the DLC for Diablo 4. No Law, which looks like an interesting action-type shooter. And yes, confirmed we're doing Total War with Warhammer 40k, which will be interesting. They'd had another Star Wars game. Hitman. Okay, Phantom Blade Zero, which looks like we're getting a Souls-like type of game. Neo 3, and then Highguard, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So that's kind of the highlights. A lot of games were announced, or we were given a better look at them, like Resident Evil with Leon Kennedy. So there's a lot of information that came out of this. I did live stream the Game Awards. It's over 4 hours long if you'd want to watch it. I'd recommend skipping through like the first half hour because it's mostly me just sitting there waiting at the screen for the game to start and occasionally talking. But other people have done the same thing. And it's interesting if you want to watch it. You can see all the trailers and such then. Okay. Well, what's interesting, though, is that even after the game happened, there was this poll that was cited over on Twitter. This also came out on Friday, and this is from Insider Gaming. About 37% of the people who voted on this poll rated the Game Awards a D or less. Stark contrast to last year's show, in which was 44% rated an A and only 16% gave it a D. So we had many more votes. But we can scroll down. This is what the actual Twitter poll looked like. And Jeff Keighley put this out there. How would you grade this year's show? And you could see that about 2/5 of the people rated it rather poorly. And I think Synth Potato here, responding, kind of summarized what the overall sentiment was about the game. What exactly were you all smoking when you decided... Oops, I'm opening it, I guess. When you decided a free-to-play hero shooter was a worthy show closer. The final hour of the show was seriously badly paced and lacked any exciting moments. It needed a final surprise. The other 2 hours were great, though. And I've heard this from other people who have said but the third hour kind of dragged. It felt like the pace fell off. And when they closed it with this game, Highguard, which I'm going to talk about right here in this article, which is from Tech for Gamers, which was posted today on Saturday the 13th. The Highguard trailer hits a 10-to-1 dislike-to-like ratio after being dubbed dead on arrival. It's a little harsh, but it may be true. Okay? This rendition of the Game Awards featured plenty of big reveals, including Leon Kennedy and Resident Evil Requiem, the two Tomb Raider titles, and more. Okay, like the past show awards, Jeff Keighley teased a major title for the closing announcement, followed by the debut of Highguard, a free-to-play multi-shooter from X-Respawn Entertainment developers. And this article kind of touches on what my comments were at the time when I saw this. The free-to-play live service shooter market has become very saturated, with recent attempts at the genre like Concord proving that players are not too interested in many more such games. Okay, and then it says the total at this point has reached 7.3 thousand dislikes. Note the trailer itself doesn't have the biggest audience either, at just over 60,000 views. So on social media, many users have criticized the game for looking like another generic multiplayer shooter. It's another hero shooter, of which we already have many, and others have pointed out the absurdity of Jeff Keighley picking Highguard as a final reveal of the Game Awards. If I remember correctly, he did this last year too, and he rounded out the Game Awards. Maybe it wasn't the Game Awards. Was it the Xbox Showcase that rounded out with the Call of Duty Black Ops 7 that came out now? I don't remember which one it was. But we've had a couple of big shows that have finished on a very disappointing note in the last year. So, yeah, even YouTube comments, fans made snarky comments about nobody leaking the project due to obvious reasons. People have compared the title to Concord and Fair Games, stating there are too many titles that serve the same purpose within the live-action genre. And people were saying, why didn't you make Titanfall 3 instead? We would have liked that. In my opinion, they would have been better served by ending the show with, yeah, I mean, even though it wasn't a debut, Leon Kennedy's appearance in Resident Evil 3 or 9, in Resident Evil 9 generated a lot more buzz and excitement than this announcement did. They would have been better off ending with the 2 Tomb Raider properties, which people have received in general more positively than this. I understand why they're doing it, but I mean, let's be honest. The hero shooter market is completely jammed right now. And we have, like they mentioned, we had Concord, which failed. You have this game, Fair Games, that is still, as far as I know, it's been in development hell, and it's had some ups and downs, but I don't think it's been officially canceled. Excuse me. You still have Marathon that Bungie is going to push out as an extraction shooter. Yeah, I know that Arc Raiders is doing great right now, and Battlefield 6 is. Black Ops 7 apparently is not doing that well. And, I've said this before, I think you're getting to a point where you're just starting to cannibalize your existing player bases on other games to come over to new games. The shooter market really is just about tapped out. And they've either got to have some of these games die off to consolidate and open up, more space for more people to get out there, or they're going to have to give it time for more growth to organically occur. But we're seeing 2 or 3 of these games a year, and there's just not enough people playing them. So even though I think the Game Awards overall went pretty well, it did end kind of with a whimper rather than a bang. But before I completely walk away from talking about that, I want to spend a little more time with the game of the night, and that being Expedition 33. I've already covered most of this information, but I just wanted to highlight this Dual Shockers article from Thursday to show where Clair Obscur Expedition 33 fell against other big winners in recent years, and you can see that it has topped everybody, even Last of Us Part 2, which had won 7 awards 5 years ago and was considered kind of unstoppable. And this game has even done better than that, a testimony to how well put together and beloved this game is, and it's just short 7 or 8 months that it's been out. I'll go over to this PC Games In article, which was published yesterday on Friday, that says that Expedition 33 just got a free update with new adventures, a Steam Deck upgrade, and other wanted features. And this came out during the acceptance speech for Game of the Year when the creative director at Sandfall Studio, Guillaume Broche, hopefully I pronounced that properly, got up and accepted the award with some of his team. They had flown in the entire Sandfall team to the Game Awards, and it had him in the audience. He got up and he thanked his team, and he thanked the industry. He thanked Hironobu Sakaguchi, who's considered to be the father of the Final Fantasy franchise, and Broche credits him as being the man who got him into video game development. And then as he's giving his acceptance speech, Broche says, well, we had promised free content, and it's available now. And people just kind of went, whoa. They had promised this content a while ago, but the timing had never been made explicit, and they just shadow dropped it during the acceptance speech. Right after the awards were over, I went out to Steam and checked, and sure enough, I had my update queued up and downloaded. And this article says that the thank you update, they had added, Expedition 33 DLC Versos drafts. The pack includes bonus additions I'm happy about, such as photo mode, loadouts to quickly swap between builds, and upgrades the Steam Deck rating. So they have a new zone that you can go into that's got more quests, there's more outfits, there's more fights, more stuff to pick up. I think there's more music too they added. It says there's new boss battles against even more challenging bosses. The QOL upgrades, the Lumina sets, and if you haven't played the game, Lumina sets are kind of like, roughly translated, they're your skill sets for your characters. And you can store up to 50 loadouts, allowing you to swap tactics real quick, so you could swap out without having to go through and manually swap them. And photo mode, and pause mid-battle, abandon your fights if you wish. And then they said the ability to change the in-game HUD elements and so on. It's basically just a nice update. Now, like I said, they had promised this content, but for them to just throw it out during the acceptance speech, it's kind of a cool moment. And lastly, and this is the kicker, this is the one that's going to, if you haven't said holy shit before, this will be the one that does it. This is a Games Radar article that was published on Thursday before the Game Awards. For the price of one Marvel Spider-Man 2, you could make roughly 30 Clair Obscur Expedition 33s. As the developer reveals, it costs less than $10 million to make. And that was where I said, oh my God. This game cost less than $10 million. And they, in a recent interview with the New York Times, which, if I remember correctly, was also posted on Thursday, the final budget for Expedition 33 came in at less than $10 million. In a era where games are routinely hitting nine figures, $100 million or more, AAA games, the fact that this game that sold $10 million, and it has sold this game was developed for $10 million, it has sold over 5 million copies now. The rate of return on what they've put into this is amazing. And I don't think that any other game is probably matching that right now, because I don't think other games are making that kind of money. And so this is just a testament, a further testament to things I've said before. You think about the number of games developed just this year on a shoestring budget that released, by tiny studios in the indie space that are routinely selling more than 1 million copies. And then you get, your kind of your AA games with Clair Obscur Expedition 33 leading the charge, followed by games like Arc Raiders that are selling millions of copies. They're selling their games to the public for $40 and $50 instead of $70 and $80. The indies are selling for under $20. And they're selling millions of copies. If you're in the AAA industry right now, there's no other way for me to put it. You better unfuck yourselves, or somebody else is going to do it for you. And that anal probe is going to be a lot more painful than you fixing the problem yourselves. You guys are on borrowed time. And since we're talking about AAA studios being on borrowed time, I'll just use this as an example. This article comes from us to us from Game Developer from Tuesday, December 9th. Major shareholder denounces Square Enix for sluggish revenue and profit margins. 3D Investment Partners, an independent investment management firm and a major shareholder of Square Enix, has criticized the company in a 112-page presentation, hoping to engage in constructive dialogue to enhance its corporate value. First of all, 112 presentation is basically I would say it's a paperwork beatdown if they've got that much to talk about. And second of all, enhance its corporate value and constructive dialogue. That's nice business speak for you better get your act in gear. Primarily, the firm critiques the sluggish revenue growth and profit margins based on the last 3 fiscal years. For context, they talk about some of their 3-year business plan, reorganizing studios. At the time, the company's annual financial results reported an 8% decrease in net sales for the fiscal year ending in March 2025, from about $2.5 billion to $2.2 billion. Square Enix has already been cutting people left and right, and now their shareholders are getting uppity. And I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at what they've got in the pipe, and this is from their page. 2026, they got 5 game releases announced, 2 remakes, 2 mobile games, and a franchise I've never heard of. It appears to be a new IP, The Adventures of Elliot, the last one listed there. That's what they've got in the pipe for 2026. Remakes, mobile games, and a franchise nobody's ever heard of. I'm looking at what they have later on down the list. I'd seen earlier that Kingdom Hearts 4 might make an appearance in 2026, but I've heard nothing about that game recently, and it's not being listed here, so we may not see it till 2027. That's assuming Square Enix still exists in 2027. They sold off all of their Western IPs and franchises. There were a couple years ago, they had sold off Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, and Kane. That's not the full name of the franchise, but I know it's Kane. Editor Jonathan coming in here. It was Legacy of Kane. I don't know why I didn't know that. Anyway, I just, brain malfunction. Carry on. They sold off those franchises to the Embracer Group. They've divested themselves of other Western studios. At the time, it looked like people thought they were trying to pull back and just concentrate with the Japanese studios. I'm starting to wonder if it was just they were just buying breathing space, and now they've used up that breathing space, and you can only do that so long before you run out of assets to sell. So, on the one hand, you've got Sandfall Studios spending less than $10 million, making a game that sells over 5 million copies in less than a year. So they more than made their money back, and they've got enough capital now to work on their next couple of games. On the other hand, you got Square Enix with this rich history of IPs, Final Fantasies, and Kingdom Hearts, and they're doing nothing. So, like I said, borrowed time. Next, we have a couple of articles from IGN about the Assassin's Creed franchise, and this has just become par for the course with Ubisoft. The first one is from Tuesday the 9th, and it says, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynched is the name of Ubisoft's long-awaited pirate remake. On sale soon. And it says, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynched is the full name of the remake, and it's had more leaks than a sunken ship, etc. Okay, that is, other than that being kind of a silly name, the key takeaway here is that actually not till you get down to the end of the article. It says new story content will be reportedly be added to flesh out more of hero Edward Kenway's life, though the game's modern-day gameplay sections have apparently been excised, so all of the parts of him coming out of the memory capsule. Something that many fans aren't happy about, which is going to be interesting, because they're doing something specifically, that the fans don't want. And then, of course, they pop up here and they say, additionally, there will be a mention here. There's a mention here that Black Flag Resynched will include the ability to make in-game purchases. Of course it will. So, Resynched is apparently, now they have not announced it, but according to the leaks, this game could come out as early as March of 2026. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on this. I know Black Flag is probably, in general terms, the most well-liked of the Assassin's Creed franchise. I know people have their individual favorites, but this is the one that I always see brought up as the GOAT for the franchise. Now, having said that, we'll go back to an article on the 8th of December, on Monday. Assassin's Creed Shadows exec acknowledges mixed reactions to series' dual protagonists and admits with Naoe and Yasuke it's more divisive. And they go in here and they say that acknowledging the choice between the nimble shinobi Naoe and the hulking samurai Yasuke has made a particularly notable example of dual protagonists being divisive. I am not going to get into why I think AC Shadows was divisive. I think it's been covered enough. And if you wanted to, you could go down to the comment section of this article and you can see that there is I won't call it a civil war, but a skirmish going on there between the people who think it's divisive for reasons of, shall we say, I guess for just lack of a better term, for reasons of DEI versus those who don't. That was what was divisive about this. There have already been black protagonists in the AC franchise that I don't think anybody cared about. I think it was the taking it in this setting that had people upset. I doubt many people are that upset about the gameplay division, and Ubisoft just completely swings and misses at this. But the worst part about it is, not only do they that, they apparently, because we don't have it in front of us yet, apparently are turning around and doing something just as damn divisive with the next game, which is cutting out a section that people of the game, the modern section, that people are not happy about. It really does smack of that, it has the energy of how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? They don't fucking learn. And it's so frustrating. Ubisoft 2 is on borrowed time. You are either going to go out of business altogether or Tencent's going to own you outright. Write that down. Because it's going to happen. Well, in the good news category, I can point to this article from PC Gamer from Thursday the 11th. The Deus Ex remaster that everyone thinks looks awful is delayed. There's no new release date, and pre-orders are being refunded. And this comes to us. It says the official remaster of the immersive sim Deus Ex was announced a few months ago with the release date of February 5th, 2026. But with that date now less than 2 months away and fans decidedly unhappy about the whole thing, developer Aspyr has opted for a delay to some unspecified new date. Now, I covered this in a news article several weeks back, and people were not happy about it. But you can see here, this is what the announcement that Aspyr put out. Get rid of that. Deus Ex Remastered, an update on the game. Thank you to the community for your feedback following the reveal. We've listened to what you had to say, and in order to better meet fan expectations and deliver the best possible experience for players, it will no longer launch on February 5th. We look forward to sharing more updates to you when the time comes. All existing pre-orders will be fully refunded. So the fact that they don't have a new release date and they're refunding pre-orders, I'd say there's a 50-50 chance this gets shut down altogether. If it does continue, if they are going to continue, they're going back to square one with it. We won't see this probably, I would say at least until the second half of 2026, if not longer. And you know what? I think for people who love the original game, they're perfectly okay with that. You know, and here's another franchise that ought to consider delaying releases. This article comes to us from Game Informer from Wednesday, the 10th of December. Call of Duty will no longer release back-to-back Modern Warfare or Black Ops games. Less than a month after the launch of COD Black Ops 7, Activision has revealed it will no longer release back-to-back releases of Black Ops or Modern War sub-series games. This is relevant considering that this year's BO7 followed last year's 6. Before that, the Call of Duty team released Modern Warfare 3 in 2023, 1 year after Modern Warfare 2 the previous year. It sounds like this type of cadence won't happen again moving forward, according to the Call of Duty team. In the post, the team thanks the community for feedback, noting, "We know that for some of you, the franchise has not met your expectations fully. To be very clear, we know what you expect, and rest assured we will deliver and over-deliver on those expectations moving forward." And then they go into their post, their details for what's next. Now, understand something. They did not say they won't release a Call of Duty game every year. They are just not going to release the Modern Warfare or Black Ops sub-series back-to-back. They're probably just going to start alternating. You're still going to see a Call of Duty every year. And I have no reason to believe that the level of quality is going to uptick just because they've made this move. Color me cynical, but I think people have Call of Duty fatigue, and what I referenced earlier, the shooter genre just doesn't have a whole lot of room to grow right now. I don't want to say any, but it doesn't have a whole lot of room to grow. I think it's a market that just doesn't have a whole lot of flex in it, and I don't see this helping them. But this is Activision, and here we are. I wanted to finish with this because I thought this was a good news story. This is from PC Games In, and this article came to us on Tuesday, the 9th of December. Minecraft Mounts of Mayhem is here, showering you in new mobs and adding one of its most lethal weapons ever. Arguably Minecraft's biggest and best drop of the year. It brings new foes and makes your noble steed as tough as you are. And this goes into Minecraft a little bit, and the update, including, like I said, the spear, which is a horseback used weapon that can apparently be used to great effect. And it adds more stuff for your mounts, more armor and stuff, water mounts, some new monsters, and so on, new items to craft. And in general, it's just continuing the legacy of Minecraft of every year, just adding more and more content for the players and making it a better experience. This game has, don't need that. This game has just been going for years and years and just continues to surprise and improve and impress. And the community that's built up around it with the modding, to me, it is one of the best success stories in all of video game history. And I still play occasionally myself. So I just wanted to end with positive and remind you that it all started off with one dude coding in his garage. The ultimate indie game, if ever there was one. So if you're a Minecraft player, one of the I don't know, 200 million people that's purchased the game. Go out there and enjoy your new mounts. Okay, folks, I'm going to call this one here. It's probably a good time anyway. When I start talking about some of these things, I get a little heated, and if so, I apologize for that. I just hate that these AAA companies, these big conglomerates, have some of these franchises, just like Assassin's Creed, these IPs that so many people have loved and enjoyed, and they just seem to be frittering it away. And it's possible they'll disappear into a hole, and we won't get any more fresh content simply because the game companies can't manage it properly. That's very frustrating to me because I love to see gamers get content they can enjoy and sink their teeth into. And they're just, most of them are not doing that anymore. And it's just kind of a sad state of affairs. Also, I would add that if you haven't tried Expedition 33, I really recommend it. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it now. It is, I won't say it's my favorite RPG that I've ever played, but it is solid. It is very engaging, and the storyline and the art style and especially the music are all top notch. So give it a shot, give it a try, and as of now, it's got even more content. So that's my personal pitch on that. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this content, please consider doing the YouTube stuff. Drop a like on the video. If you think I miscovered anything or didn't have the right opinions on any of these stories, leave a comment down below and let me know. And I do read all comments. I try to respond to as many as I can. So I appreciate that engagement. And if you feel like I've earned your subscription, I thank you in advance for that. So I'll call it quits here and plan to play some more Expedition 33 this week. Second season of Fallout. It drops, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week coming up. So I'll be looking forward to that as well. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. You all go out there, live your best lives, and y'all stay gaming.